introducing the next moderator, Seema Kumar, the CEO of Cure.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Hi. First of all, it's such a pleasure to be here at this Health Equity Forum because I think this is a topic of utmost importance. And as was mentioned, I'm CEO of Cure, which is an innovation campus right here in New York City, and we focus on advancing healthcare and cures. And before that, I worked at Johnson & Johnson for about 20 years, and where we worked on a COVID-19 vaccine, and that's when the issues of health equity, which have always been around, came out from under the shadows, and people had a shine light on it. And so very intimately familiar with that, and that's my introduction to today's topic that we're going to be discussing, because after 20 years at Johnson & Johnson, a healthcare company, a pharmaceutical company, and now, once again, at a healthcare company, I know that when you think about industry and healthcare, the first thing that comes to mind is not health equity. In fact, quite the opposite. You think about health equity as something that you associate with industry the last. And so we're here today to demystify that and bust that myth. And we want to show examples, and we want to show sparks of inspiration, stories of brightness from the industry where the industry actually has evolved, making health equity a priority. And we're going to talk a little bit about how sort of reassessing that priority of health equity within industry is changing how we do research and development, changing how we look at commercialization, changing how we look at prioritizing our portfolio, and focusing on access to care. So with that, let me invite up our panelists. So first up, let me invite up Carmen Villar. She's the VP of Social Business Innovation at Merck. Welcome, welcome. And we have Marion Brooks, country head for Marion Brooks, VP and US country head for diversity, equality, and inclusion at Novartis. Welcome. Have a seat. Okay, so, as I mentioned, Merck, Novartis, Johnson & Johnson, Cure, that's, people don't think of health equity when they think of companies like that. So let's start with examples. As we mentioned, there are actually examples where companies have done something very different, putting health equity as a key priority and changing and evolving their models and their systems internally to address that. So, Carmen, let's start with you. Give us an example.
Sure. Well, first let me say thanks for having me here tonight. It's really an honor to be part of this launch and to think about all the progress, I'm looking at you, Lily, that we have made in the last few years. We talked a lot about COVID in the earlier panel and what that meant to a lot of people. Let me just frame this out a little bit. My company has been committed for a long time to programs, mostly in the philanthropy area, around donating and providing medications all over the world. When I came on board about 5 or 6 years ago, I really started asking questions about social determinants of health and population health. And I can honestly say that the company wasn't really ready. All right? I created, anyway, a health equity group that sits at the enterprise level. And lo and behold, COVID comes. And all of a sudden, all of my friends and colleagues around the company are saying, wait a second, what do you mean people aren't getting these vaccines? They're everywhere. What's happening? They're starting to ask all these questions. And where do they go? To the little brown girl who started the health equity group. And what we had started to do was to gain insights from small examples inside the company that had actually worked or were starting to work. Now, not everybody in the company was excited about that, but we pushed forward. There's a couple things I want to mention in terms of examples. One is a campaign that was a vaccine campaign called Generations. and it was focused out on the West Coast in the LA area, and it was designed to address Hispanics in the multi-generational household, etc. Now, the marketing team designed this great campaign and came to us and we said, you know, maybe we need to pull in the EBRG and we need to get kind of a little focus group inside the company to see what people think and how they're going to react. Well, we did that. And everybody that looked at the campaign said, this is not going to work. We're going to have to do this a little bit differently. So we looked at data. We looked at what is successful in terms of how we communicate to different communities. And we know that Latinos are not the same everywhere. So what's going to work it out on the West Coast, et cetera. And they totally redid the campaign. And when they launched that campaign, they saw a 5-to-1 ROI because they figured out that if they said the right things and showed the right pictures and really got to the heart of what drives people, you know, Stephen was talking about humanity. That's what it means. If some vaccine is out there that's going to protect my family, then I'm going to go get it, and we're all going to get it. And that's what it means. Monica Chaudhry is here. She's a Merck alum also, and has been working with us on a project called Project NIA. And this is really focused around triple-negative breast cancer among Black women. We know that the rates are hugely inequitable, and we need to do something about that. But are women getting screened early enough? The recommendations are sometimes unclear. They are changing, as we all know. So what do we need to do? Can we provide education and outreach earlier to younger women who can ask for screening, who can go in and talk about what they know and what we're able to give them as tools and get screened earlier? If they get screened earlier, can they get treatment earlier? Maybe they can prevent severe illness or death. Wouldn't that be great? So we're starting to look at these data now. Monica tells me that they're very good. But these are the kinds of projects that we are engaging in because there is this recognition now that the things that many of us in this room have been trying to do for a very long time is critical to business. Oh my God, Black and brown people are critical to business.
Novel idea.
Yeah. So Carmen, that's a great example, and because not only is it the right thing to do, as a business, it makes complete business sense, right? And Marion, what about your examples?
So at Novartis, our purpose is to reimagine medicine and extend the lives of all patients and people. And so what we've done is we created the Beacon of Hope. It's a 10-year, $50 million partnership, not commitment, but partnership with 26 HBCUs and the 4 historically Black medical schools. And what we're doing is on the medical side, we're creating centers of excellence. So raise your hand if you've heard it's hard to get Black and brown patients to join clinical trials, right? So now they will have centers of excellence at the 4 historically Black medical schools where the patients as well as the investigators will look the same. And so we'll be able to recruit and retain more patients. So all 4 of the historically Black medical schools. We're also creating a center of excellence around climate change. We've talked a lot about social determinants of health. So there's a center of excellence that's being created there, as well as addressing data standards and medical tests. There are racial biases and corrections that are not based on science in some of the tests. I'll give you a great example because we were speaking about COVID earlier. The pulse oximeter that was used to determine lung function and who was going to get interventions for treatment, if you were Black or brown, it didn't read correctly. So a lot of patients died because they didn't get the intervention. Same thing as far as monitoring your kidneys. So there are racial biases. So now the historically Black medical schools will be doing research and working with the medical associations to remove bias out of those programs that are not based on science. So that's what we're doing on the medical side. But we have to inspire and enable the next generation of leaders. So we're also offering scholarships. So $30,000 for the students at the HBCUs for their sophomore to senior years. $30,000 each so they can graduate without debt versus trying to relieve their debt. But we're not just going to give them money. We're actually going to ensure that they have mentorship. So each of them receive a mentor from Novartis and a full curriculum where we teach them about financial literacy, emotional intelligence, leading without authority, all the things that you need on day one, regardless of the industry that you're going into to be successful. And we also are working with the professors and providing grants to them for research because they don't get the same endowments that a Duke or a Harvard would get. Now, we're not doing this alone. So this is a huge issue. Addressing the systemic racism and bias that created inequality in health is not something that one company can do. So our Beacon of Hope initiative and program is open to everyone. So Merck has joined, Sanofi, AbbVie. We have a number of community organizations that have also joined. But we built this with the presidents of those HBCUs and with the community to ensure that we're creating things with the community, not for the community, because it's never going to work that way.
That's great. That's excellent. Really, really excellent. And I'm so happy to hear that everybody is joining in this combined effort because there's an African proverb that says, alone you can walk fast, but together you can walk far. And so, scaling up the effort is going to be really important. And it's funny, one of the things that we talk about in pharmaceuticals, of course, is that most of the medicines that have been developed based on clinical trials and, the genetics of white men. And so, so now there is an extra effort ongoing to look at genetics and genomics of diverse populations, and women, right? Women were not in clinical trials for a long time. So lots of progress being made and, still a long way to go though, right? So let's talk about challenges. What are the challenges to sort of meeting our, health equity goals and the SDG goals for equity?
Well, there are many. I think we've talked about some. Collaboration, I think, is really critical. This week earlier, I heard somebody say collaboration because we collaborate, but somehow still it's a competition of who's going to do it better or faster. And I think we all know we have to do it together. And what I would say from an industry point of view is we have to try harder. We have to be intentional. We are starting at my company, at MSD, as we're known outside of the United States and Canada, to really look at how we address early research, early discovery, and start talking about what the access strategy is going to be very, very early on. Traditionally, this usually happens phase 3 trials when you're thinking about bringing a product to market. Now we're being very intentional and looking up front. What is the product? What is the profile? Where is it going to be successful and in what communities? And how do we ensure that it gets there? Now, what I have to say is that is bringing together the whole of the enterprise because it takes people like me, but it also takes people designing the delivery tool. It takes people from manufacturing and how they're going to get it to where they need to go. It takes the whole company to really think about this. So it is a sea change inside of our company, I can honestly say, but a good one. And it is the right approach. Health equity is not just something we can talk about or, listen, it takes partnership. 17 is really important, SDG 17. We have to do it together. But it also means that internally we have to do it together. It cannot be a collaboration. It has to be a true collaboration. And that's really how we have to try harder, we have to start earlier, I would say, and we have to engage our partners in a meaningful way.
That's great. And, it really takes a whole company and everybody rowing together, but then beyond that, many, many companies, to do it together. Marion, what about you? What are the challenges that you think we as a world face in getting to this equity? Because we don't want it to be a special initiative, right? over here on the side. It needs to be woven into the fabric and the DNA of the whole company.
Absolutely. So you took the words right out of my mouth. We have to embed this into the DNA of what we do every day. And I think we also, across sectors, so I was so happy to speak to the people from different organizations. Juliet from CVS and I are following up. But I think that's a challenge that we can easily, and I think this organization, this function, can actually play a major part in that, is how do we come together across sectors, not just the pharmaceutical industry, but across sectors, government, all of those things, and address the problems together, right? There's an old saying that in every obstacle, there's an opportunity. So there's an opportunity for us to take the lead, and then we can bring the government and everyone else in to help to move it forward. But if we come together and start to really strategize and build a platform and a programs together, then they can't say no, because we're the ones who actually administer the healthcare. So that's the big opportunity in the challenge from my lens.
Yeah, and I think, it's a travesty that right here in what somebody would call the world's most advanced nation in healthcare, we are facing maternal mortality and infant mortality rates here that are higher than some of the countries in the global south. And so something's got to be done. But we all can hope that we have a magic wand, right? And so we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to go to the magic wand question, right? Let's wave the magic wand. What would your wish be for the future?
Oh my God, so many, right? I wish there were more people of color in the C-suite. I wish that could actually talk about health equity and understand what it means and bring a diverse perspective to the table. I wish that we could truly all leave our coats of color at the door, meaning our teal coats, our red coats, our yellow coats, our whatever company you happen to be with, and we actually truly collaborate. I wish that we can truly engage community in a meaningful way. I was struck, Stephen, by your comments, and it's everything that I believe in. And if we are trying to change from the inside, but we all have to. I think, to Marion's point, we all have to do this together. And community is at the core. The final thing I'll say is primary care. Primary care has become where people go when they break a leg or sprain a finger or have a headache. Primary care should be addressing chronic conditions in the core of what is happening there. And that is not what's happening in primary care. We're not giving physicians or care providers enough time to actually diagnose those root causes, as you said. So I really hope that we can focus on primary care, that we can solve some of these barriers, and that we can truly collaborate and leave our biases at the door.
Great. Fabulous. Fantastic.
I agree.
Yes,
100%.
what is yours?
I agree 100%. So I'm going to bring it down to today and all of us in this room. My wish is that we use this as a springboard and that we all come together and make a commitment to partner. There are so many amazing things happening. I was talking to different people today. So how do we take this moment and we don't just all go back and do what we were doing before we got here? So everyone in this room, I would love, my wish to be, for us to say, we're going to commit, we're going to start to meet, we're going to start to partner more effectively and proactively to address the issue. Because I go to forums constantly. Last week I spoke at Fortune magazine. We were talking about the same thing, right? So this group has an opportunity to start to do something, and that's my wish, that we do something from today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carmen. Thank you, Marion. This has been a great conversation, and I'll wrap it up by saying I second both of your wishes. And as the CEO of Cure, my wish today is cure, period, in an equitable way for all in the world. Thank you all very much for this great panel.